Good Erev Shabbos, everyone. This week's portion is out of Bo. Here we have the final three plagues, the laws of the Pesach Seder, and the actual exodus of Egypt. And towards the end of the Parsha, it says, "V'hoya ki yisha'olcha vincha mocha lemor," and it shall come to pass in the future, tomorrow, should your child ask you, "Ma zois," what is this? In other words, what is this? What is this Pesach? What's this all about? And you shall answer him b'chayzik yad, with a strong hand, with a strong hand, God took us out of Egypt from the house of slavery. This, of course, is one of the questions of the four sons. We usually attribute it to the simple son, who doesn't know the details, doesn't know how to even phrase a question. All he can say is mazos. Few questions on this verse. It says, Ki yisha'olcha vincha mocha. Should your son ask you tomorrow? What is tomorrow? What does it mean tomorrow? Why doesn't it just say, Ki yisha'olcha vincha? Should your son ask you? Does it matter if he asks us today, tomorrow? What is tomorrow indicating? The future? What is that referring to? In addition, what exactly is the question that he's asking? Ma zois. What is this? We usually think the simple child is a little boy. He doesn't know anything. Maybe he's not even bar mitzvahed. But we're talking about the four sons. We're talking about even adults. Is it possible that we're dealing with a child who obviously is seeing a Pesach, he's seeing a Seder, he's seeing it in his home, and he cannot articulate more than just saying, what is this? Early in the Parsha, it presents the question from the wicked son. And he says, what is this service unto you? At least he says, he doesn't just say, what is this? What is this service? He realizes there's some type of a service over here. And this child cannot even expect, this son, he's not a child, he could be an adult. He cannot say more than just mazos. What is this? That's all he knows. And to make things even more difficult, the verse begins, V'haya, and it shall come to pass, or it shall be. We find two ways of expressing this thought. Vayehi and V'haya. It was and it shall be. We're told that wherever it says Vayehi, it usually suggests something of a difficulty. Whereas V'haya, this suggests something that we should rejoice. So it's as if the verse is saying, V'haya, and you should rejoice when your son tomorrow asks you, what is this? We should rejoice when he says, what is this? We should rejoice when he expresses what are the laws, what are the statutes. He shows a little wisdom. We should rejoice that we have a child who has absolutely no idea what Pesach, Passover is all about. What's the Paschal lamb? What is this lamb? What's this matzah? Where's the chametz? Why are we eating maror? What is this? We should rejoice that we have a child like this. What do we answer? We answer him, it says, basically, what do we answer our children? What is the Seder all about? This is the night of the exodus of Egypt, when Paro was compelled to say to Moshe, they belong to you. The children of Israel are not mine. They are the children of God. They are not in my jurisdiction. They're in the jurisdiction of God. We were freed from Paro. We left. The actual physical taking leave was the following morning. So the answer should be, Yomata Elav, that God took us out of Egypt from a house of slavery. But we say something before that. Yomata Elav, we should answer our child and say, B'choizek yad, with a strong hand, God took us out. A strong, what is this strong hand? And we find earlier, Moshe says to Klal Yisrael, you shall tell your son. This is where the Haggadah comes from. Tell him all about the miracles and everything that transpired in Egypt, all the plagues and the Exodus. And the Exodus of Egypt, it should become a sign on your arms, the tefillin. It should be something you remember on your head, the tefillin of the arm, the tefillin of the head. And why is that so important? For with a strong hand, God took you out of Egypt. Here too, we find not just God took us out of Egypt, but he did so with a strong hand. What is this strong hand? What is this referring to? And why does it seem to be the main component of the answer to the child's question? What is this? With a strong hand, God took us out of Egypt. Could have said, God took us out of Egypt with a strong hand. No, first and foremost, strong hand. What does that suggest? The sages explain that Machar, tomorrow, means in the future. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying there will come a point in the future in which we'll find a generation that is so assimilated, that is so corrupted in its thought, that has lost all knowledge and connection to Judaism, that all they can say when they see Jews who are observing a Pesach Seder and the Yontif of Pesach, they haven't got a clue what this is. And all they can say is Mazois. What is this? There will come a time in the future, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Klal Yisrael, there'll be a Mazois generation. What is this? We don't even know what we're looking at. I haven't got a clue. I don't know what this means. I don't understand. Who can explain this to me? What's a matzah? What is this? What are you doing? Why do you spend so much time? You made kiddush. Why don't you sit down and eat? What's going on? There'll be such a generation. And we might think, is such a generation, are those types of Jews, are they worthy of God's salvation and redemption? The Jews who have endured the long, difficult exile, the forces that attempt to destroy our faith, those who remain loyal unto God. We understand that God will give them redemption and salvation, but what about the rest of Klal Yisrael? What about those Jews who don't have a clue? They don't even know what Pesach, they never heard of Passover, they don't have any idea. Are they also worthy of redemption and salvation? And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying. V'hoya, you shall rejoice when your child asks you in the future, what is this? That he doesn't have a clue. You should rejoice. Why? Because even for that generation, for those Jews, there will be salvation, there will be redemption. What's the proof to that? Because you should answer him, it was with a strong hand God took us from Egypt, from a house of slavery. What does a strong hand mean? It means, as our sages tell us, that when we left Egypt, it was b'chipazayin, in great haste. Why was it necessary for us to leave in haste? Our sages say because Klal Yisrael in general was so corrupted, so contaminated by the impurities of Egypt and the idolatry, that it seeped within our very personalities and our very thought and our behavior that we had fallen to the 49th level of impurity. There are only 50. We were on the threshold of the 50th level, and if we would have remained one more moment in Egypt, we might have entered that 50th level and we would have been beyond hope and beyond redemption. And therefore, God saw to it that hastily we would all have to leave as the process of the purification was taking root within us. We too were immersed, if not in actual idolatry, then certainly the culture of idolatry, the assimilation. It filled us, it filled our minds, and it filled our souls. And nevertheless, God took us out with a strong hand. We see this also, that there was a plague of darkness. Rashi says, why did God bring this plague of darkness to the extent now? 3 days the Egyptians couldn't see. 3 days they couldn't move. The darkness became a thick mass. They couldn't even move. Why? Why was it necessary, such a plague to such an extent? Rashi says, because during the plague of darkness, 80% of Klal Yisrael perished. 4/5 of Klal Yisrael perished. Why? Because even though they had witnessed 8 of the 9 plagues, and Moshe kept telling them, the redemption is at hand, the redemption is at hand, they kept saying, life's good now here in Egypt. We're not subjected to any servitude. We're not being oppressed. The Egyptians are revering us. The Egyptians are seized with fear when they see us. We don't want to leave. We're not going to go to this promised land. Life now has been restored appropriately. This is our home. This is where we've been for 210 years. We're not leaving, despite seeing the plagues, the wonders of God with their own eyes. They refused to leave. They perished. 80% perished in the plague of darkness. That's how assimilated Klal Yisrael was. Not only that, next week's Parsha, we come to the splitting of the sea, and the Talmud tells us that prior, when God was about to divide the waters to rescue Klal Yisrael, the guardian angel of the Egyptians came before God and said, why would you perform a miracle to save the Jews and drown the Egyptians? These worshipped idols, the Egyptians, and so did these, so did the Jews. There are Jews here that you want to rescue. They too were engaged in the idolatry. Why should you rescue them? God responded, because the Egyptians did so willfully, the Jews, it was imposed upon them. But we see that there was assimilation. We see that Klal Yisrael was contaminated by the idolatry and the decadent behavior of the Egyptians. That's why God took us out so quickly. That's why it was necessary to have the Chayzik Yod. And this is what Moshe is saying. God took us out. This is what we should tell our children. Don't be afraid. Don't feel unworthy, inadequate. I don't know. I want to know Judaism, but I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. I don't know an aleph from a beis. I don't know where I'm supposed to go, what I'm supposed to do, what I should say. I don't have a clue. What is this? Is there any hope for me? And the answer is absolutely. We'll rejoice for that generation, those children who say, help me, I don't know what this is. Because that's who we were in Egypt. And God came and he redeemed us. That's the meaning of a strong hand. With great strength, God took us from the 49th level of impurity, raised us, elevated us, purified us, sanctified us, until we could actually witness his divine presence by the splitting of the sea and be worthy of receiving his Torah. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Klal Yisrael. And when men put their tefillin on every single day, it's not just another mitzvah. This is a mitzvah that we were given before we came to Sinai. Here, when Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching us all about the Pesach Seder, he tells us the mitzvah of tefillin, because this mitzvah, it should permeate our arms, our muscles, our dexterity. It should permeate our minds, our ability to think and reason. and know that it was biyad chazaka. God is always with us, even when we fall and become contaminated. All that is necessary is that we should be sincere, honest, truthful, recognizing our flaws, recognizing our inadequacies. And rather than feel hopeless, we should say, what is this? Because I want to know. If Mashiach would come tomorrow, how many in America would say, let's go to Israel? Or how many would say, oh, there's no more boycotting, there's no more anti-Semitism, we'll stay right here where it's nice and comfortable? And how many would say, I am stirred spiritually. Someone help me. Someone teach me. What is this? We are indeed living in a generation of mazos. What is this? But these are holy, sacred souls. And they too will be worthy of the salvation and the redemption as long as they are sincerely seeking. The fact that they don't know, put that aside. That's the cancer of exile. But the redemption is with God's strong hand. May we be worthy of witnessing this redemption and the strong hand of God, outstretched arm of God, speedily in our lifetime. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay Jewish. Have a wonderful Shabbos.